Good day, my name is Jadynn Sibilly.
And I'm Kwaniqua Monsanto.
And we are members of the University of the Virgin Islands Association of Black Journalism.
Today we have the honor of interviewing the president of UVI, Dr. Safiya George.
So just to get to know a little bit more about Dr. George before we start, she's the 6th president and the proud alumni of the university. She was also a student athlete. Prior to becoming president, she served as the nursing dean for the Christine E. Lynn College of Nursing at Florida Atlantic University. She also held several leadership roles at the University of Alabama and Emory University, and has served on several boards of directors in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and 2 international boards. She completed a postdoctoral fellowship in religion and health, also known as theology and medicine, at Duke University, and her master's and PhD at Emory University. That said, how are you doing today, Dr. George?
Pretty good, thank you.
Nice.
And what inspired you to become a nurse, and how did that lead to your role as a college administrator? Can you talk to us about your experience as a student, your time as a ladybug, and the friendships you made?
Awesome. Yeah, so I started UVI at a very young age, at 15 actually, right after 11th grade. And of course at that age I wasn't sure what I would major in, but I had heard my mother talk about wanting to become a nurse. And while I was in orientation, there was also a lady behind me who talked about travel nursing. And so I decided to sign up for nursing. I knew I wanted to be in a career where I was helping people. I thought about psychology, I thought about nutrition and physical fitness, and I figured as a nurse I would get to do all. And so that's how I chose nursing. And over the years, I've had opportunity to lead programs at Emory University, where I'm also an alum. And then I went on to be recruited to be the research dean at University of Alabama, which you mentioned. I really enjoyed doing that and supporting faculty there as well as students in building their research portfolios and helping the college to build its research portfolio, as well as helping the university move from a Research 2 designation, Carnegie designation, to a Research 1 high-intensity research institution. And then my years at Florida Atlantic University, I really spent a lot of time building up that college in general, in terms of rankings, in terms of numbers of students, in terms of revenue generating programs, in terms of establishing it as a federally qualified health center lookalike for the community health centers that we ran, adding a site of a health center, running a memory disorder clinic and an adult day center, and really enjoyed the whole breadth and gamut of what my team and I were engaged in. But my time at UVI brought me back here. So when I was a student here, I thoroughly enjoyed my UVI experience. I lived on campus here for the last 2 years of my nursing program. I lived in South dorms in B. I don't remember the room number, but I had a roommate. While I was also studying nursing, I was also a Lady Buccaneer in the basketball team. Part of the starting 5, I was a point guard and a shooting guard. And really honestly enjoyed the time that I spent doing both things, right? Studying for my nursing career as well as being a part of a team. We used to practice with the girls, but also as well travel with the boys basketball team, and so really formed a bond with both team members, and just enjoyed everything that UVI had to offer, whether, you know, hanging out in the Student Activity Center or doing things around town, but getting to know my fellow classmates and team members. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at UVI. So
That's great.
That's good.
So throughout your nursing profession, I know you worked with population that had HIV and cancer, but how do you think that helped you, like through the Child and Accomplishment, how do you think that's helping you become, or serve as our president now at the university?
yeah. So I think if anyone thinks of 2 of the most stigmatizing diseases in the world, at the top of the list is HIV and cancer, right? And so most people don't want to share either of those diagnoses because of the stigma that are associated with it, especially HIV having such a social stigma attached to it. And how I got into the field is when I was a nursing student at Wang Louis Hospital, my first patient that was assigned to me was a woman who was HIV positive. And as a new nursing student at 15, maybe I turned 16 by then, I went into the room the night before, as we were required to meet the patient, to look at the medical record. And when I walked into the room, the patient was, covered in the white sheet, and there were blood spots on the sheets. And so my first reaction was, I was afraid. How can I take care of someone who is bleeding, is HIV positive, without myself contracting HIV, without having not known enough to take care of patients, right? Because I was brand new. I didn't really know how to really implement universal precautions or how to protect myself. And so I was scared. And so the next day, I couldn't sleep that night. And the next day, I arrived to the hospital, I think 10 minutes late. And my clinical instructor sent me home. And instead, my best friend, who was also in my class, Desiree, she took care of that patient. And then later that day told me how amazing that patient was, her story of how she had contracted HIV. This person was a HIV educator, was telling people how to avoid from becoming positive, and then she contracted it from her partner or spouse, I can't remember which, but was an amazing person. And I missed that opportunity, and I regretted it. I regretted that I let fear prevent me from getting to know that one patient, and that I let a stigma prevent me from, taking care of that patient. And so that's how my journey began. So once I decided to go to graduate school after graduating from here at UVI, I applied to do a master's in nursing at Emory University. I applied several other places, Johns Hopkins, Georgia State, and I got accepted into all three. But I ultimately decided to attend Emory because it was the only university that was offering a concentration in HIV and cancer, immunology and oncology. And I figured I would start with the two of the toughest diseases to specialize in my training. And I was only one of two in that class, although the larger class of nurse practitioners had, many more students, but that specialty class, not many people were interested in studying HIV or cancer. And so through that journey, I learned how to take care of people with HIV, help them live longer, help their immune systems function, thrive, also how to help other people prevent from getting HIV. I really studied also the HIV epidemic here in the Virgin Islands, as well as in Georgia in particular, and where both of these places had very high rates. And so I fell in love with taking care of vulnerable populations, as well as doing research. And I wanted to do research with both people living with HIV and also people living with cancer, but ended up having to choose. And so I ended up doing research with people living with HIV. But in my practice, I mostly practiced taking care of people with cancer. So that's how I ended up taking care of both. And so in my role as president, I think working with difficult situations that seem perhaps impossible at times, and understanding the plight of people suffering, I think really gives me a good perspective, as well as my own student experiences here at UVI, helping give that perspective of, finding out what matters most to students. What do they want from their UVI student experience, to see how I can make that happen. So I think being a nurse, right, it's a healing profession, and so we take care of patients from life until death. And so I have a lot of experience dealing with death and helping families cope with death and helping patients deal with the reality of death or with the reality that they can live instead of accepting a diagnosis of HIV, for example, which once upon a time was a death sentence, and it no longer is if they're taking their antivirals and taking their preventative medicines and doing what they need to do to keep themselves healthy while also upholding a responsibility to others and keeping others safe. And so I think, those experiences makes me a compassionate and well-rounded leader as president, as well as someone who has empathy to recognize, when additional dose of patience is needed, but also when someone can be encouraged and pushed and stretched to grow further, including employees or members of my team or students, right? And so, just encouraging students to reach for the stars, because, I don't know if you've heard, the sky is the limit, but I think even beyond the sky, the galaxy is the limit, I would say.
What would you say you have encountered from serving as a nursing dean to a president for a college?
Well, people often ask me that. And the college that I led at Florida Atlantic University had approximately 1,600 students, so a little bit less than UVI, but we had 3 campuses, one on Boca Raton, one in Davie, Florida, one in Harbor Branch, and I was in the process of starting a 4th campus in Jupiter at our Honors College campus. And in addition to having those 3 campuses, a lot of research, we were able to increase research, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we also ran a federally qualified health center lookalike, a community health center in West Palm Beach. We added a 2nd location, so we had 2 locations and about 2,000 patients. And we also ran a memory disorder clinic. That was a state-funded clinic. And so we had a team of nurses, psychologists, social workers, neuropsychologists, and we also ran an adult day center, so like an adult daycare for people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So really using a caring-based model, a very unique model, one of the only models using caring science for Alzheimer's in the country. And so, right, that takes a lot, right? We had about 100 employees, and the memory disorder clinic had a little over 1,200 patients, so over 2,000 patients, as well as 1,600 students, so you can do the math. So a huge operation of faculty, staff, students, patients, multiple campuses. So it was a lot, but it kept me excited and energized because the things that I love most is being able to do a variety of things. So I love administration, helping prepare leaders. I love supporting students. I love working with students inside the classroom, but even more so outside the classroom, taking students on international service learning trips, also seeing patients. When I was there, up until I came here, I was also seeing and treating patients because I'm an adult nurse practitioner. So I do miss that to some degree. And I was also still conducting research. So, you know, I had a couple of projects that were funded using machine learning and AI to develop predictive models for COVID-19, but also for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And I was also finishing up a paper, writing a manuscript about the work that I did using neuroimaging, looking at adolescent brains of girls ages 15 to 19 to look at sexual risk behavior, to be able to use that to, you know, develop interventions to prevent HIV and other sexually transmitted infections. So I did a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so now here as president, with all these varied skills and perspectives and experiences, I'm able to use them to apply here to UVI to help students, to help research faculty grow, to help improve infrastructure here, to better support our research faculty and our staff, and also to better support faculty as they support students. And so, you know, these whole gamut of experiences, including, you know, generating programs that are cutting edge, based on demand, generating revenues for the college or revenues for the clinic. So that whole business model, and really being able to use it here to see how we can improve UVI to better serve, like I said, students, employees, as well as the community as a whole.
Wow, you really had a lot on your plate.
Indeed.
On July 8, 2019, you began your tenure as the Dean of the Christine E. Lynn College of Nursing. The college has more than 1,100 students and offers bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs. Can you share some of those initiatives you implemented during your time as Dean?
Yeah, so I implemented a number of them. So interestingly enough, when I started in 2019, the year after, I also was simultaneously the research dean. So I was dean and research dean because the previous research dean had retired. And so in both positions, I started offering proposal development groups for faculty, proposal reviews, other programs to help faculty generate research ideas, prepare research grant proposals in a supportive and safe environment. I also implemented research teams across disciplines, so working closely with the College of Engineering, for example, the College of Social Work, the College of Medicine, so implementing things across the university's campus. I also had us look at needs in the market. So for example, right in the height of the pandemic, we decided that one thing that was missing in the state of Florida and in our region was people who were trained on contact tracing and trained in public health concepts. I'm very passionate about public health and prevention. And so we very quickly, I pulled a team together to start a web-based, very robust contact tracing course. That was an introduction to contact tracing and public health, so people could understand epidemiological concepts, public health, how to do contact tracing, so that people, and the Department of Health in Florida sent folks, a lot of other agencies sent folks, and people from all over the country, took that course. We also developed, based on need, a telehealth course, because a lot of visits were being provided through telehealth or telemedicine. So we also pulled a team together to develop a telehealth course. We've worked in partnership with Cross Country Healthcare, for example, on developing a telemetry course. And telemetry is this study of rhythm strips, like cardiac heart rhythm strips. And it takes a specialized training to be able to read those strips to see when someone has an abnormal rhythm, heart rhythm, for example. So those are some examples. We also partnered with College of Medicine and College of Engineering to implement a university-wide pilot program for research that would be collaborative, organize conferences. So honestly implemented a lot of initiatives that were very beneficial. I also had a vision to create the field of caring data science. So I know people know about data science, and some people know about caring science, but creating a field where there was the intersection between caring science and data science. And that manuscript I have, but I have yet to submit it. I need to finish it. So you've reminded me. I need to get that off my plate, off my desk. And then in trying to create this new paradigm or field, I also hired the college's first postdoctoral fellow in data science, created the first assistant professors in data science. So right now they have 2, and they have 2 postdoctoral fellows, one in data science, one in caring science. And so just to get nurses and healthcare providers to think about data science in new ways, and so that data scientists can also partner with healthcare providers so that there's synergy. And the other thing that we did is we created a program called Nurse Engineer. Right? One of my issues was, engineers are great and they create great programs, but in some cases, if an engineer is creating a health program that's applicable to health care or health providers without knowing healthcare, you can imagine what that's going to look like. So in many cases, engineers might create a software or a tool or electronic health record, and then they say, all right, you nurses, you doctors, try it and tell us what you think. And then we do, and it's like, no. Right? So this program was designed to give nurses an additional year of coursework in engineering, whether they wanted to focus on biomedical engineering or artificial intelligence, so that they could learn to program, that they could learn to code, so that they could learn to implement and innovate new healthcare software technology solutions, so that they can better collaborate with engineers and be part of the solution in what's needed in healthcare, rather than relying on another field to bring solutions to us that are wonky, that we then need to sort of have a workaround, or causes us more work and less time to spend with patients, and instead, more time troubleshooting things. So that's one of the things I'm proud of that we were also able to do, in addition to, of course, growing our doctoral programs there. We had a DMP and a PhD, and so I know UVI has 1 PhD program, so I'm hoping that we can develop another PhD program and additional graduate programs here, so that students who finish their bachelor's have enough options for graduate studies that they might want to pursue.
Okay, one, I just have to say I love the idea of the engineer for nursing because that's actually really smart. So that way they have the abilities to do it themselves. Okay. Also, since we're on the topic of implementing more like graduate programs, I know for your state of the address for the university, you mentioned like implementing more faculty and graduate school. Graduate programs for the nursing for the nursing school, but you also talked about your interest in the arts. So would you implement more studies for like the arts, for example, like a master's in journalism for people like us who want to be journalists?
Yeah, honestly, how I think about graduate education is based on market need. So I'm not just going to develop programs because they sound good. It would be looking at, what do our graduates want? Is there enough interest in X topic, master's in journalism? Is there enough demand in the market in terms of the workforce or agencies needing to hire folks who have a master's in X? And then also what the capabilities of our current faculty are, and if we have any gaps or not, or what are we most best positioned to offer. So you mentioned nursing, so I do think that we do need a master's in nursing education here so that we can train more nurse educators, so that we can train more nursing students to become nurses, because our hospitals here need it, doctors' offices here need it. Also, a nurse practitioner program is another master's program, for example. So there's a demand for those that I know because that's the field I come from, right? Also hoping to establish a school of medicine or a medical school based on the need for, additional healthcare providers here in the territory, in the region. Also, a master's in public health, right, to help with the healthcare infrastructure here. And just so that I know we could do so much more in the VI territory in terms of health, in terms of prevention, if we had more people trained in public health. So a bachelor's in public health, master's in public health are some examples. But yeah, some of the other programs you talked about, based on what students need. I know there's been some discussion about people, would like to have a doctorate in marine science, for example. And there might be other things. So I don't have all the answers, and it's all about learning from students, faculty, and the deans of our schools or colleges here to see, what would be feasible and what's needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, in collaboration with your cabinet members, what would you say you would implement to increase student enrollment and retention?
Great question. So we recently hired a new vice provost for enrollment management and student services, Dr. Nigel Edwards, who comes to us with an amazing degree of experience. And we also hired an associate vice provost of enrollment services and director of admissions, who also has experience with, student services, enrollment management, admissions. And so with them, as well as with the team who already are on the ground here on this campus, on Orville Kent campus and on the Albert Sheen campus, working together to come up with a plan to, reach into the middle schools, reach into the high schools, talk to teachers, talk to students, talk to parents and principals, to hear from them directly, what they want from UVI, what they need to be successful, and also doing more marketing, right? Sharing with the world, with the territory, with the region, the amazing things happening at UVI. Because there are a lot of amazing things happening at UVI that I'm learning people right here don't know about, right? People at UVI don't know about. People in the community don't know about. People in the States don't know about. So there's so much great things happening in College of Language, Arts, and Social Science, College of Science and Math, School of Agriculture, I mean, all of them, nursing. So lots of great things happening, but like I said, not enough people know about. Or students, potential students don't always know that we have a program in animal science, for example, in the School of Agriculture, right? Exactly. So there are a lot of unknowns that we need to get the word out about more. And if that means doing a TikTok, we're going to do a TikTok, doing a video, really using social media, just getting the word out there. And just sort of, meeting people where they are to share the magic of what's happening at UVI, to also get other people excited and about the resources we have, right? We have free tuition, we have scholarships, but students don't always know who to ask or what to ask, especially if they don't know something exists, to help them. We have a Center for Student Success. We have a new Vice President for Student Success and Innovation. We have the Innovation Center. So there's so many great things happening at UVI, including great things that students like you are doing. So we just need to spread the word.
Okay, so, you talked about doing the TikTok. Would you have maybe students in charge of that, maybe SGA or?
Yeah, I work very closely with SGA, Jadynn and Darren and Kervante on the St. Croix campus. So I really believe in giving students a seat at the table. And so listening to them about their ideas of, what students need, what we can do together. And so partnering with them as well as with my cabinet and leadership team as well as with staff and employees here about what, we might try, right? We don't have to do everything the same as we've done it before. We can try some new things, some new modalities, get students involved. So, we're open to partnership. That's how the magic happens.
Okay, so we have the student leaders in SGA, like I mentioned. What advice would you give to leaders like them or others who have an interest in becoming a president of a university?
I think with, focus, hard work, dedication, any student here can become anything they want to become. I truly believe that. And I think we are the only ones who can limit ourselves, right? So if you believe in yourself, but if you also reach out, ask for help, ask for mentorship, if opportunities come, sort of take advantage of opportunities. As one door opens, it might lead you on a journey that you might not have imagined. I didn't necessarily see myself going into HIV care or HIV research, but that door opened and I went through it just to sort of see. And, life takes you on journeys that you wouldn't even have planned for yourself exactly, but I think as long as you have stick-to-itness, like I say, sort of that determination, that grit, that desire to want to move forward and do more and to help other people along the way, then the sky is the limit. So,
thank you. So you mentioned that, UVI may need to work on, promoting what we do have. So I think many high schoolers may not see what UVI has, so it's always like a last resort, and they tend to look for schools in the States. So for those who do leave and they find experience working elsewhere, do you still think they should come back and maybe try and open up businesses to help the territory flourish, or do you think they're better off with the opportunities in the States?
I think it's always important to come back and give back, which is what I've done. Right, I could have stayed where I was doing pretty good, but I wanted to come back and to contribute to my own alma mater by the sea. And so, right, even if we have some who leave, right, they've been living on an island that's 32 square miles or 84 square miles in St. Croix's case, or 18 square miles in St. John's case. I know at some point you want to leave, but it's good to, always have in your mind to at some point come back and give back. And even if someone does their undergraduate education somewhere else, it's good to consider us for graduate education as a university, or vice versa. I think it's even better to do your undergraduate here at UVI, because by that time you're finished, you're more mature, you're more established, you have a better sense of prioritization, of organizational skills, you have a more of a solid foundation. And your brain is more mature. I do neuroscience, right? So by the time you're finished with your bachelor's, your prefrontal cortex is more mature. You can make better decisions. So then you leave here and you go on to graduate school somewhere else. And so that, positions you to even have better earning capacity, or to even handle the financial challenges that come with, living on your own, for example, out of state. And by then you've established a better network and more independence. And so I think, also, even if students were to do their undergraduate here, we have the National Student Exchange Program, so they still have an opportunity to do a semester somewhere else. And you can do that more than once. And so you can really create whatever kind of UVI experience you want. And so more students just need to know that those opportunities exist for them to say, all right, I'm going to study at UVI for 4 years, but of those 4 years, I'm going to do a semester here, a semester there, a semester there. Or they can, do study abroad, or they can participate in Passport to the World, and they can still get to see the world while being a UVI student, especially if you maintain your grades and you meet the criteria. You can also do that with free tuition.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities. Students just need to ask questions, ask for help, research the website, talk to other students who've been successful, other graduates, so that they can also, carve out that path for themselves.
Thank you. Now, I do have to say, at this point, you can relax a bit. We're just going to ask more personal questions so we can all get to know you more on a personal level.
What would you say is your favorite place to visit?
I have a couple of favorite places. I love Myrtle Beach. I love anywhere there's a beach, so you'll see a theme. I love Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. I love Hilton Head. I love Marco Island in Florida, because where I used to live in Delray Beach, it was only about a 2-hour or so drive to the beach, which living on an island, imagine me saying a 2-hour drive is not long. Living on an island is like, what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes? Right. I also love Spain. That's one of my favorite countries, specifically Sevilla, Spain, Alicante, Spain. So those are amongst my favorite places, other than America's Paradise, where I'm from, of course, the Virgin Islands.
Okay. What advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
10-year-old Safiya. At 10 years old, I was still attending Alexander Henderson Elementary School. And I think I was even then playing basketball every afternoon after school or riding bicycle with my sisters. So I think at that age, maybe you're self-conscious or wondering about what other people think about you, what other people think about your shoes, what other people think about your hair. So I don't know, maybe I would tell my 10-year-old self that all will be well. I think when we're that age, we worry a lot about the future. What am I going to do? What am I going to become? How many kids am I going to have? You have all these questions. And I think telling yourself, for everything there's a season. So, don't worry.
Yeah.
Exactly. Enjoy childhood and, life will come.
Yes.
If you could change anything in the territory with the snap of your finger, what would it be and why?
I would change the healthcare infrastructure. I see a lot of people leave here on a regular basis, and the main reason they're leaving, whether it's temporary they're leaving or they're permanent leaving, is because of their perception of the healthcare infrastructure. Right? There's not enough, or they don't trust it, or it's not good enough, or not enough doctors, or the hospital isn't enough. And so that's something that causes a lot of people to either leave, go to Florida to seek health care, or go wherever to seek health care. So I think, really building up the infrastructure. And then also changing mindsets about customer service. I think as a territory, in many cases, we struggle with our perception of customer service and what's good enough versus focusing on excellence and what I consider the Chick-fil-A way of being very excited to help other people. And we luckily have some UVI employees who are very like that, just like George over here, who always greets everyone with a smile and always ready to help. So we need more of that in the territory, so that tourists feel welcome, but visitors, as well as people who are from here also, feel welcome when they have a question. So the students feel, served when they have a need. And so those are some of the things I would like to change. And the concept of follow-up, right? Having a culture where people follow up on their own without someone saying, I'm still waiting for an answer. It's been 2 weeks, or it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So how would you say someone close to you, like your best friend, would describe you in 3 words?
Dedicated, disciplined, and caring.
I could see that. I could see that. So what about a favorite movie?
You're going to think it's corny, but one of my favorite movies is Love and Basketball.
I like that movie.
You know, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. You know, I don't know if you're still hooping, doing basketball, but are you?
I am.
Oh, is that what you said? That's your main hobby?
No, pickleball is now.
Pickleball. Okay.
Pickleball is my main hobby. I play on the weekends,
Nice.
and I love it.
Okay. Now, this is the final question. I do have to warn you. I told you to relax earlier, but this one may stir up some controversy depending on how you answer it. But as a lady from the Virgin Islands, what would you say is your favorite tart?
My favorite tart is actually guava tart, although I do really love coconut tart.
Okay.
But I do not like pineapple tart. Let's
Thank
establish
you.
that.
Thank you. Actually, I don't care what you answer, but that I can agree with you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this concludes the end of our interview with President George. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Jadynn Sibilly.
And I'm Kwaniqua Monsanto. Be sure to follow us on our social media at UVIABJ.
Awesome.
Yay.